is one of the most devastating diseases in our history. According to the World Health Organization Smallpox Fact Sheet, released in October of 2011, an estimated 300 million people died due to the disease in the 20th century alone. Scientists believe this terrible disease has been plaguing the globe for around 3,000 years, but there has not been a recorded case in the last 38. It is the only disease that has been completely eradicated worldwide. Because of the global effort to vaccinate against the disease and the enormous steps taken by science and medicine, vaccinations aren't necessary for smallpox anymore. My name is Johanna Dawdy, and I work at Cook Children's Hospital, and today I'd like to talk with you about an issue that is close to my heart but greatly affects us all: vaccinations. First of all, I'd like to discuss the growing number of children acquiring preventable diseases. Next, I'm going to touch on the cause of this trend. And finally, we're going to discuss how we can all help to reverse it. My hope is that I can provide some information on an unfortunate problem that we are facing today, and that I can persuade you to vaccinate your children and encourage those around you to do the same. First, we start with the problem. The rate of preventable disease is on the rise. According to Robbie Gonzalez in his article published September 2014 for IO9, called CDC Statistics Show What Happened When You Don't Vaccinate, in the year 2000, there were no reported cases of measles, a disease that most children suffered from before the vaccine. However, between January and August of 2014, there have been nearly 600 confirmed cases nationwide. Gonzalez also informs us that in California, where anti-vaccination is on the rise, there has been an outbreak of whooping cough or pertussis, a respiratory infection that is often seen in children. America isn't the only country that is seeing a reoccurrence of diseases. Alyssa Greenberg explains in her article, First Case of Diphtheria in Spain Since 1986 After Parents Shun Vaccination, written for Time magazine in June 2015, that Spain has seen the first case of diphtheria in 19 years. Doctors had to search worldwide, finally finding the medicine needed to treat the 6-year-old boy in Russia. Due to the markedly decreased number of diseases, it's very difficult to find the treatment that the patient needed. Next, we must ask ourselves, why are the numbers on the rise? The cause of this trend is clear. It is the number of parents who are opting out of vaccinating their children or choosing to do so later than recommended. In 2004, the University of Washington School of Law, in the article titled Banishing Vaccinations, Why Are So Many Americans Opting Out of Vaccinating Their Children, explained that many parents are not vaccinating because of a study that showed a link between vaccination and autism. Since the study's release, it has been completely debunked. However, to some parents, the fear of autism, a disability that we're all too familiar with, is greater than the fear of polio, something that hasn't been a concern for the majority since the 1970s, and therefore the fear-mongering propaganda works. Because of the attention this topic is getting, it has raised the question, can the government demand that children are vaccinated? As of now, individual states have the say in whether or not it can be mandated that children are vaccinated, and most states have a religious and philosophical exemption. Many are saying it's not acceptable for the government to dictate an individual's health care, and therefore it has become an individual rights fight along with a social well-being issue. Due to the refusal to vaccinate, there has also been a marked reduction in what is called herd immunity. This is where those who are not vaccinated, whether by philosophical or medical necessity, are protected because the majority have been immunized against the disease. This is causing a social medical crisis as the percentage of Americans who are vaccinated is declining, putting at risk those who medically cannot receive the vaccines, and therefore increasing the number of patients unnecessarily suffering from the diseases. So, what can be done to reverse the trend? Amy Wallace explains in her article titled An Epidemic of Fear, How Panicked Parents Skipping Shots Endangers Us All, written in 2009 for Wired. The first step is to increase education and awareness that vaccinations are generally very safe. Many studies have proven time and again there's no link between vaccinations and autism or any other disorders. Secondly, Wallace points out that we need to understand our social responsibility to those around us. When parents refuse to vaccinate, it puts those who cannot at a markedly increased risk. Lastly, vaccinate your children and encourage those around you to do the same. If you're still skeptical, take a little time to review the hundreds of scientific articles readily available that show that vaccinations are a safe and effective way of preventing devastating diseases. We are on the brink of a major medical issue. The number of preventable diseases is on the rise due to pseudoscience and its effects. However, we can all help to reverse this trend by thinking critically, educating ourselves instead of relying on propaganda, and vaccinating our children and encouraging those around you to do the same. The smallpox vaccine alone has saved millions of lives, and we are nearing eradication of more devastating diseases such as polio and diphtheria. However, the recent controversy has caused us to take several steps back on the progress that's been made. It's time to reverse this trend to protect our children from the shattering of epidemics that plagued the world years ago.